Woo! Ha! Gotcha! April Fools. Haha. Didn't think I would get you, but I got you. Maybe the reason I got you is because by the time you're watching this, it's probably the 2nd, and I filmed this yesterday when it was April 1st today. So, anyhow, gotcha. So, what we're working on today is some more exponent rules. We've got to do multiplication properties of exponents. You can't forget the negative exponent rules. You can't forget what to do when 0 is an exponent. And then today we got to make sure we remember some terminology that we talked about in the past. If I have x to the 7th, then x is the base, and then 7 is the exponent, the little raised number up there. Alright, so today we're doing multiplication properties, and we're doing powers with the same base. So if you're multiplying two variables and they have the same base, okay, the same, it doesn't even have to be variable, it could be any exponent. If it's got the same base, then we can do this little shortcut. It's pretty awesome. So I'm going to show you what it is. So if I have a cubed times a, okay, if we were to write this out long ways, that would be a times a times a, and then, because that's a cubed, a times a times a, and then we have this other a. So how many a's am I multiplying together? 4. Okay, so a to the 4th. Alright, now, the shortcut is to think about this as a to the 1st. So all you're really having to do is 3 plus 1. You're just adding the exponent. So if I'm multiplying with the same base, it only works if both of these are a. Okay, if one of them's an a and one of them's an x, then it doesn't work. Okay, you can't combine them. Alright, so if I've got 2 cubed times 2 squared, okay, same thing again. Okay, I could write it out long ways, 2 times 2 times 2, and then another times 2 times 2, or I can think about it as just adding the exponent. So 3 plus 2 is 5, so this is 2 to the 5th. Now, I've got to do that work. Okay, if it's a number and not a variable, I've got to go ahead and do the work. Okay, so I'm going to type in my calculator, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. If I got a fancy calculator, I can hit 2 to the 5th and get the answer faster. But if I'm on grandma's calculator and it doesn't have a big fancy like exponent button, well then that's what I got to do. Alright, so when I do 2 to the 5th, just like on yesterday's work, I'm going to get 32. So, anyhow, there you go. Now, same thing we just talked about. If I've got x to the 5th times y squared times x to the 4th, okay, x to the 5th and x to the 4th, those can go together because they have the same base. But this y squared is going to stay separate. So, if I need to, I can write it like this. Okay, I can just reorganize it if that helps me work it out. If I don't have to reorganize it, then that's fine too. Okay, so I'm going to add the exponents. So 5 plus 4 is 9, so I'm going to get x to the 9th y squared. Alright, now we've got a couple different things down here, some tricky ones. We're going to have to remember a couple things. We have a fraction, okay, and we've got 1 over x to the 8th times x to the negative 3. It doesn't matter, the rule doesn't change just because it's on the bottom of a fraction. I'm just going to add the 8 and the negative 3. Well, a positive 8 and a negative 3 make 5. So that is x to the 5th. And then the 1 just stays where it's at. Nothing happens to it. Okay? Now, if I've got all this other stuff over here, well, same thing we talked about yesterday. One step at a time. The 6 is just a 6. The y cubed is just a y cubed. And then on the bottom I have x to the 5th times x to the 9th. Well, I'm just going to add the exponents because they both have the same base. So 5 plus 9 is 14. I get x to the 14th. Alright? Now, down here, here's another example of, we got to remember what we talked about yesterday. I have x to the 9th times x to the negative 12. Well, now when I do x to the 9th times x to the negative 12, when I add my 9 and my negative 12 together, I'm going to get x to the negative 3. I cannot leave this negative exponent in my answer. Okay, I've got to make that positive. The only way to make it positive is to remember the rule that we talked about yesterday. If I have a negative exponent, it moves the whole thing to the bottom. So I make a fraction. I put x cubed on the bottom. If there's nothing else here, then you've got to remember it's like this coefficient is a 1. And so you're going to put a 1 right there on top. So 1 over x cubed would be our answer. Alright? Now, this is probably the simplest stuff you're going to see on today's work. We've got some other stuff over here. We've got some whole numbers and all that good stuff. We got a bunch of stuff going on, okay? This isn't more complicated over here. You just got to remember, if it's a whole number, I'm going to treat it like a whole number. If it is an exponent, then I'm going to treat it like an exponent. I'm going to follow the exponent rules. So just like if I wrote down 3 times 6 on your homework and you had to do 3 times 6, all of you would tell me the answer is 18 and you would all be right. Okay? Same thing over here. Okay? If this is 3x to the negative 15th times 6x to the 11th, okay, you're going to put the whole numbers together and you got your exponents together. If it helps you to rewrite it and get rid of the parentheses and rewrite everything, you can. Okay, I can rewrite this as 3 times 6 times x to the negative 15th times x to the 11th. Okay, if it helps me to write it like that. So 3 times 6, these are whole numbers. There's no exponents, there's no whatever, there's nothing. Like, it's just 3 times 6. So 3 times 6, just like it was over here, is 18. Okay, then I have x to the negative 15th times x to the 11th. Well, negative 15 and 11 is going to make negative 4. So now I've got negative 4. Well, I've got to remember my rule from yesterday. Alright? So, my rule with the negative exponent is I have to move that to the bottom. So the 18 is going to be on top. The x to the 4th goes to the bottom. And so I get 18 over x to the 4th is my answer there. Alright? Now, same thing here. We're going to try and do it without rewriting everything this time. I'm just going to do it as we go. So 8 times 4, I'm going to put my whole numbers first. 32. Okay? Once again, if you know your multiplication facts, this is going to be really easy, really simple. If you forgot them and you're having to punch buttons in the calculator, it's going to get tricky for you. Alright, so now I've got x to the 4th. I've got an x to the 7th over here. So x to the 4th and x to the 7th. My rule is that they have the same base, which they're both x. Then I'm going to add the exponent, so that is x to the 11th. And then I've got just one y right here, so I'm going to put that y in there also. Alright, now, last one of the day. Here's another one that sometimes tricks people. I really wish it didn't, but it does. Okay, this is just a negative 3 in the front of this. Okay, so this is negative 3 x squared y to the 0 times 4x cubed y to the negative 4th. Okay, the negative 3 is just a regular old negative 3. Okay, so negative 3 times 4 is negative 12. Now, x squared, x cubed, so x squared times x cubed. My rule is if they have the same base, I'm going to add the 2 and the 3, so that is x to the 5th. I have my y to the 0, y to the negative 4th. Well, 0 and negative 4 make negative 4, so that's y to the negative 4th. Alright, now, I can't finish with the negative exponent in my answer. So I'm going to go one at a time, and I'm going to move what I need to move. This is just a negative 12. This isn't an exponent, okay? It's just a number, an integer. Okay, so the negative 12 stays right where it's at. The x to the 5th stays where it's at. The y to the negative fourth, that's what's got to go to the bottom. Alright? So, hopefully you understand that. Remember, there's still notes that were linked in yesterday's assignment. I'll probably attach them again. You're going to have to look down below. Should be a piece of paper that looks like this. It says negative exponents, zero exponents, and then it says multiplication properties, power at the same base. That's what you want to look for. It's got some more notes. You got these notes. You're ready to go. You're going to rock this. So take the time, watch these videos. If you made it to the end, you obviously did watch the video. And let's get our schoolwork done. Let's finish up strong like we always do. We'll see you next time.